Finally, some good quality gameplay of NBA 2K16. Many different teams going up against each other. Enjoy that while I give you my first impressions on NBA 2K16, as I got to play this game last week early. Now, the gameplay that we're watching, this is not my gameplay. I wasn't playing. This video is sponsored by 2K. Let's get right into it, my likes and dislikes. So first up is the speed. This is the first year in a long time that 2K actually did something to the speed. When I played this game last week, I played against the CPU. It was on Superstar difficulty. You could switch the difficulty. You could go from rookie to pro all the way up to Hall of Fame. I chose Superstar because most people that play this game, they're not going to play the Hall of Fame anyway. I played with 5 different teams: the Miami Heat, the Spurs, the Houston Rockets, the Lakers, and the Golden State Warriors. And in pretty much every game, I could see the speed on the fast break. So my first game was the Heat versus the Cavs. And LeBron, he had this mean dunk in transition. And I couldn't keep up with him. I tried. I tried to hold turbo. He just blew right by me and dunked the ball. When I played against John Wall also had sequences just like that where he's taking off on the break and I couldn't catch him. And even me, I had sequences on the fast break where I had the faster player and I was able to go by a big. He wasn't able to stop me on the break. When these moments were happening, it was shocking because in 2K, it's like the speed has been so bad forever. And I actually saw something different this time when I played it. It was nice. It was refreshing to see that. Now, next, let me talk about a feature that I hated, but I'm not sure what other people will think about this. Mike Wang, one of the developers for the game, he told me that there's this new feature in the game revolving around story. And what that means is that every game that you play is going to be different. So you could go into a game and somebody on your team could already be on fire. Or you could go into a game and somebody could be cold. And Mike Wang was saying, this is something that happens in real life, and he gave reference to the NBA Finals where Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they had a few games where they just weren't really there. It was like they weren't in the action. They couldn't hit their shots. And so he said he put this feature in the game so that it's more like real life. In every game that I played, I had a bunch of my players that were cold. So, for instance, in the first game when I was playing with the Miami Heat, Mario Chalmers was cold right at the start of the game. And then I remember when I was playing with the Houston Rockets, Ty Lawson was cold at the start of the game. So in that game, I just immediately subbed in Patrick Beverley because I'm like, what's going on here? How is he cold? It messes up my flow. You don't want to be out there playing with players that are cold. It just messes up everything that you're trying to do. You could give them an open look and then they're going to miss because they're cold. So I didn't like this feature, and it was funny because in the Rockets game, when the bench came in, this was hilarious. My entire team was cold. All 5 of my players were cold, and I remember when this was happening, I'm telling the devs, I'm like, look at this. My entire team is cold. I have the bench in the game. What am I going to do now? So I really struggled to score, and it just messed up the game for me. The CPU could go on a run. I can't score. I'm missing everything. I put the starters back in the game. I just think that this feature is annoying, although some people, they might actually like this, that you could go into a game and it's different. Maybe you're used to dominating with a certain player, and then in one game, that player is going to be cold. I don't know. Maybe some people will like this feature. I did not. Now, Mike Wang, he did tell me that he could tweak this system because the build that we played of the game, it's obviously not final. They can always tweak it. But the version that we played, it seemed like so many of our players, and I talked with other people there too, the other YouTubers, they were saying the same thing. They had a lot of players that were cold as well. And for me, it just messes up my offense. I have all these open looks with all these players, and they're struggling to score because of this cold, hot system. Now, the funny thing about this is that when I played with the Warriors, Steph Curry, he was cold at the start of the game, but I was still making threes. So maybe Steph Curry, he's just so good of a shooter that even when he's cold, you can still shoot out of the cold slump. Because I was making threes, I was making it splash with Steph Curry. His release is very nice. It's quick. You got to release it quick. But it works. His shot was going in, and this was on superstar difficulty. But really, the problem I have with this feature is that my players are cold for no reason. It's not like I made them get cold, like I was taking bad shots. Maybe I got my shot blocked a bunch of times and then they got cold. No, at the start of the game, players could be cold. You could sub a guy in off the bench, he could be cold. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Maybe other people, maybe you might like this feature because it does change each game. Each game you play could be different. A guy could be hot, he could be cold. Next, let me talk about the post game because 2K has been saying that the post game this year has been much improved. Now, for me personally, the post game felt like 2K15 to me. I know a lot of the post moves, so in the games that I was playing with, I was doing post moves with Chris Bosh, LaMarcus Aldridge, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Roy Hibbert. I was doing post moves, Dwight Howard, and all the moves seemed about the same. It's possible that they have new moves into the game, obviously, because I only got to play the game for a few hours. So there could be new moves. The controls are a little bit different, but for the most part, it was functioning the same way that I'm used to. You could do fakes, you could do up and unders, fades, you could drive, you could spin, you could face up. Now, the one thing that was different is that when you have a mean mismatch in the paint with a good post player, there's a new animation that makes it so easy to score. So one example that I remember vividly was when I was playing with the Los Angeles Lakers. I had Roy Hibbert, he was in the paint, and there was a point guard that got switched on to him. I passed him the ball and did a hook shot, but this hook shot was different from any hook shot I've ever seen in a 2K game. He basically just jumped up and dropped the ball right into the hoop. He just dropped it like his hand. It was like a dunk, but it wasn't a dunk. It was a hook, but it was so effortless and so easy. For a good example, think of somebody like Wilt Chamberlain. If you ever look at his highlights in the post, a lot of the times you'll see him do that finger roll really close to the rim, and it's almost a guaranteed score because of how close he is and how he just finger rolls it right. That's what Hibbert did. It wasn't a finger roll though, but he just dropped it right into the rim. And what I noticed is that you don't see that animation unless you have a mean mismatch. If I'm going up against some other big, Hibbert doesn't do that. But when he has a big mismatch like that, a short guy, a point guard, a shooting guard, he just jumps straight up and drops it right in. So this is pretty nice because in the past, it's really frustrating when you have a big man with a mean mismatch like a point guard on him. He does a regular hook shot and it clanks off the back of the rim. That's happened to pretty much all of us. It has, and it seems like that's not going to really be happening in this game because of the new hook shot that they added in there. And also, the back down animation was a lot faster when you have a mean mismatch. You can quickly back them down, push them around if it's a mean mismatch. Next, let me talk about the pick and roll game. For me, it was very difficult to get a successful pick and roll to work. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a little bit of both because you want the pick and roll to have difficulty. You don't want it to just be a money play all the time. But I felt like it was too difficult. Like they don't want you doing pick and rolls. That's how I felt. But at the same time, when I played this game, I was playing on the broadcast camera. We didn't have an option to switch to the 2K camera. We had to play on a broadcast camera. And then obviously the controls were a little bit different. And since my controls were on a different camera, they were slightly, I think that if I just play the game more, I'll get used to how the CPU is reacting to the pick and roll in this game because it's so much different. And I'll be able to figure it out. I think it's a timing thing, but I'm just going to go ahead and explain what happened. So this year, when you call for a pick and roll, a lot of times the defense, the guy that's guarding you, the ball, he just ignores the pick and roll altogether. Now, this is something that's been happening in 2K for a long time, but it seems like in this year's game, they made it even worse. Like he really avoids what you're doing. And then when you get a possession where he doesn't, the other guy in the pick and roll will get involved. So he'll step out, he'll hedge the pick and roll, and this is good. So you'll get bumped. Sometimes they'll double team, they'll trap you. Sometimes they'll steal the ball from you. I had that happen to me a lot as I'm trying to run these pick and rolls. Then, of course, when the guy is rolling to the rim and you want to deliver the pass, a lot of times the guy goes too fast when he's rolling to the rim, and then when you pass it to him, he's deep in the paint and somebody else picks the pass off. It was very difficult, but I think it will get easier as I get to play the game more and as I get to change the camera to the 2K camera, because then my controls will be left is left, right is right, up is up, down is down. But it's definitely going to take some time to get used to. I did not have much success with the pick and roll, but the pick and pop I had success with. It seemed like it was so much easier to do a pick and pop, to pass it to the guy, and then he's open, but then somebody will come over to rotate. So a lot of the times when I would do the pick and pop, the first pass is not the pass that you're going to take the shot. If you make one more pass to somebody on the perimeter or somebody else, he'll be open and he'll have a cleaner look. Next, let's talk about on-ball defense and dribbling. So in my first game, I was the Heat and I played against the Cavs. And Dragic could not stay, he couldn't keep Kyrie in front of him, which is realistic because Dragic is not the greatest defender. And Kyrie, as we all know, he's super quick and fast. He's got crazy handles. So pretty much anytime Kyrie was dribbling, I couldn't do anything with Dragic. He would get by me, he would cross over, he would drive. It was a nightmare. But then if you use better defenders, you're able to stay in front of the offensive player a lot better. Like when I was playing with the Spurs and Kawhi Leonard, Kawhi was pretty much doing anything I told him to do. And it seems to work that way when you go up against the CPU. I remember when I was playing with the Heat, I had Dragic and I had a mean mismatch. Kevin Love was switched on. I gave him a crossover left to right and blew right by Kevin Love and finished with a layup at the rim. Now, as far as the zigzag cheese, I honestly don't know if it's still effective in the game or not. I didn't get to play against a person. I played against the CPU in all of my games. I didn't try to zigzag, and the CPU wasn't zigzagging either. So I have no idea if it's still effective, if it's still there. I personally don't know. The dribbling was pretty good. It was pretty much like 2K15, but they do have new size up moves, and every player has multiple moves, so you don't just do the same one every time. You can explode out of them, you can link them, you can do crossovers, you can pretty much do whatever you could do in 2K15. And I'm sure there probably are some new moves thrown in there, but again, since I was playing on the broadcast camera, I wasn't really too comfortable and too fluid with my dribbles. I could do them, but obviously when I'm on a 2K camera, it's so effortless because I know left is left and right is right. I'm sure that once I play the full game, I go to the 2K camera, I'm going to find and discover new moves. I'm going to get very fluent, just like I always am. I think the dribbling was great, though. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was great, and I like the new size-up moves. Now let's talk about the rebounding and the passing. I did see some new passing in the game, some new animations. I even saw a few passes that were faster in certain situations. They changed the control with the passing, so they put each type of pass on a different button. So one button you can do a bounce pass, another button is for the lob pass, and then the other button is for pretty much all the other types of passes that you can make. One thing I like about the passing, though, is that there's a way for you to, if you hold down the passing button, you can have your teammates come to the ball. This is good if you're getting bumped, if there's a lot of pressure, maybe you picked up your dribble accidentally, then you can have somebody come to the ball so that you don't turn the ball over. Also, when you're getting double teamed in this game, you don't just throw the ball out of bounds. That happened all the time in 2K15. That's why a lot of people would double team you all the time. I called it a double team cheese because they were relying on that pass just flying out of bounds. I don't think any of my passes flew out of bounds when I got double teamed, and I got double teamed a lot because of me trying to figure out how to do the pick and roll. They are very aggressive on defense when it comes to the pick and roll. They do so many different things. They adjust, and that's where I saw most of my double teams. So I was able to test out the passing out of that situation. Now for the rebounding. I think I need to play the game a little bit more before I make my decision on the rebounding, because I saw a lot of situations where the guy that's supposed to get the rebound gets it, but I still saw those moments where somebody that I don't think should be able to get it on this possession would grab a rebound. I definitely need more time to really analyze the rebounding because as I was playing, it wasn't like I was paying attention to every single rebounding sequence. So I'll just leave it at that. As far as the defense goes, the defense felt pretty good. I had a lot of manual blocks, which I do a lot anyway in 2K15 and in previous 2Ks, but the defense felt good. It feels like if you jump at the right time with the right defender, you can get the blocks that you're supposed to get. You can get the contests that you're supposed to get. And the defense definitely feels good with defenders that are better than others. One thing that I forgot to talk about earlier was the baseline defense. Because this year, it's almost like the CPU, they dare you or they bait you to go baseline. I remember I had a possession with James Harden, and whoever was guarding me literally gave me the baseline. He shaded, he stepped away from the baseline, so I said, okay, let me just go ahead and drive with Harden. Let's go baseline. And as soon as I did that, as soon as I got close to the paint, some other defender came over from the weak side and trapped. So what looked like a layup to me, I'm saying, hey, this guy is giving me a layup, turned into a trapping situation. And my layup turned into a forced layup. One time I got blocked, one time I got stripped. So as this was happening, the devs, they actually were laughing and they were saying that's a defensive mechanism in the game to funnel the traffic to the baseline and trap the baseline, keep people away from the center of the court, the paint. I know they have a lot of new defensive settings in the game that you can change how you want players to defend other players. Once I get the game, I'm definitely going to fool around with all those settings. I didn't really want to sit there and look and try to test because we didn't have that much time. We only had a few hours to play. So I just played. Another great thing about the defense this year is that, let's say you have a shooter in the corner. Remember in 2K15, anytime you drive to the paint and there's a shooter in the corner, that defender would come down to help, and then the corner three ball is wide open. I didn't really see that happening in 2K16. I think they changed the logic for that. They know, hey, don't do that. Don't just leave the three ball open. And that's great because so many people were running various pick and roll plays where that's what they were looking for. They were hoping for your guy to drop down, pass, and get an easy three. And it was annoying to defend because the pick and roll defense wasn't as good as it is in this game. So you had to manually hedge, manually bump, and then as soon as they're driving, you had to manually switch over to the guy that's guarding the guy in the corner, make him stay there. You guys saw that. If you watched my Team series, you saw me doing that manually pretty much every game, trying to stop all those corner threes. That's what you had to do. But in this year's game, you don't have to do that because they're not that dumb. And actually, if you look at the gameplay, there's various examples of that happening. Like right here on this play that just happened, when Rose drove, he didn't leave his guy. And on a few plays ago in the other game, the same thing happened. He didn't leave his guy. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the new substitution menu and even the play calling menu. I actually don't like it. I think it's a mistake. So now, in order to make a substitution, you have to first press down on the D-pad, but then you have to use the right stick to make your changes. So here's an example. Let's say you're playing with the Bulls. You want to sub out Derrick Rose and put in another point guard. So you press down on the D-pad, and then you have to press up on the right stick to select Derrick Rose. Then it brings up another menu of 4 or 5 players. And to make the sub, you have to press the right stick again. So up might be one play, right might be another player, left is another player. I just think it's slower this way. It was so much faster before. Press down on the D-pad, right, down again, right, down. That's so much faster than down, right stick up, look at the list, right, pick, and then go back to the other menu. I think it's too slow. It was much better before. It's the same way with picking plays. I wish they would change it back because I felt like I had to call a timeout to make a substitution. I didn't like it. And that's it for this gameplay. 19 minutes. Also, my impressions. Let me know what you think. Also, in the comment section, feel free to ask me some questions and I can answer them as best as I can about the gameplay. Keep that clock running. Keep him guessing. We'll run it on third down. There it is. Oh, wait. Oh! Oh, my gosh. That is the worst time for a bad throw. No, that was such an easy one. You didn't have to. Choking in the championship.